keep our streets safe.
Thank you, Phoenix Police.
Gracias a la Policía de Phoenix.
Thank you, Phoenix Police.
Rise to serve. Find more today at joinphxpd.com. Protect and serve with the elite.
Sponsored by the City of Phoenix.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
Slow it down. Get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pegol is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
KQFN Tempe.
Also transmitting on K257CD Phoenix at 99.3 FM and K240 EU Mountain Hills at 95.9 FM.
Wherever you go, take us along. Listen to our live stream on our free Fanatic app. Download it today.
And welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Beat the Book. My name is Keon Rose. Alongside me is our betting expert in the building, Dylan Cohen. We are broadcasting live from the Harmon Solar Studios in sunny uptown Scottsdale here at 1580 The Fanatic. And today on the show, Suns basketball. We've got to talk about the basketball on the court, but the basketball off the court as well as the trade deadline approaches. That is tomorrow. And we've got some rumors and some maybe potentially juicy details out there for you. We'll get to that stuff. We'll also get to segment 2 of the show. We'll talk a little bit more NBA trade talk because the trade deadline did get surprisingly busy as we thought it would. You get closer to the trade deadline, teams get a little bit more desperate. People have an idea as to who has leverage, who does not have leverage. We'll get to that too. We'll talk about the Super Bowl odds. They're moving a little bit. They're not moving very, very much. But I think that that's because people think that this is going to be a close game. But the way that it's moving might be in your favor, depending on who you want to bet on. So we'll give you that information as well. And of course, segment 3 of the show, as we always do, we go big game hunt and try to find the long shot parlay of the day for you to try and win you some big bucks on the show. You're on the text line, by the way, 888-368-1580. How did your bets do yesterday? How did your teams do? We want to hear that stuff. So you let us know and we'll talk about it. But before we get to any and all of those things, Dylan, who powers the show?
That would be Sport Trade. And if you have not already, make sure you search Sport Trade on your smartphone, get the app downloaded, and use promo code 1580 to take advantage of their 10% cashback promotion on all the wagers that you place in your first week. And of course, do not forget to join us this coming Friday. That is when Alex Kane, the CEO of Sport Trade, will be back here on Beat the Book to give us the latest with the app and to give us some inside insights from the head of an actual sports book about how the bets are going right now for the Super Bowl. We're probably even going to talk a little Waste Management Open. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation. You're not going to want to miss out on that. Also, we are powered by Edge Boost, and I'm sure you've probably heard the commercial that I narrated for that we've been putting out there. Edge Boost is the only bank account that is designed specifically for your sports book, your daily fantasy site, and your casino transactions. So when you utilize an Edge Boost bank account and you make a deposit into any one of those entities, you are going to earn up to 0.5% cash back. Use promo code 1580 when you visit edgeboost.bet and sign up for this account. You will get a electronic Visa debit card that you can then use to make these deposits into a sports book, daily fantasy site, or a casino. This bank account is FDIC insured. This was created in partnership with Visa. It's totally legit. So again, visit edgeboost.bet to learn more and sign up today. And with that being said, what we do here on Beat the Book, if you're not familiar with the show, is we do have a website where Monday through Friday, we are putting out picks that you can then turn around and bet on to make some money. And you're definitely not going to want to miss on these. We've been doing pretty well this week. Last night, we went 8-2 out of the 10 picks provided. So make sure you check out the Beat the Book website today. If you search in your browser, Beat the Book Fanatic or Beat the Book Dylan Cohen, either one of those things will take you right to the site. Likewise, you can follow me on Instagram. The tag is at Beat the Book Fanatic, all spelled out. And if you hit the link in the bio, that'll take you right to the Beat the Book page so you can see what those 10 bets are for today. There is also a long shot parlay that's posted at the bottom, which I'm going to break down in segment 3 so you can understand more about why I'm looking to, bet on these specific legs that we're chasing for that big game, payday. So before we get into the news here, do have a special message to put out. And it's honestly a bittersweet moment for me because, Keon, you have been absolutely instrumental in the creation of Beat the Book and getting it, to where we are right now. This has been going on. Beat the Book started as a segment on the Daily Blender last summer, and then it eventually grew to a 1-hour show that's on 5 days a week. And Keon has been my partner in crime this entire time. Unfortunately, today is Keon's last day on the show, taking advantage of a new opportunity. I am very sad to see you go, my friend, but just want to say thank you so much for everything you've done and, for getting Beat the Book to this place. I could not have done this without you.
Yeah, man, I've got a lot of nostalgic feelings. I know we haven't been doing the show for that long, but just watching this thing grow has been really cool, and being a part of it. And yeah, when you had the segment, I remember, you had to be kind of conservative with some of your picks, and like watching you get the chance to really put stuff out there. And now we've got a long shot parlay of the day segment where, we've hit a couple of times this year already. It's been incredibly fun, and I've enjoyed being a part of it, and I'm gonna miss it. I am gonna miss it. But,
you are absolutely welcome back anytime if that ever provides an opportunity for itself. You know how to reach me, man. Just let me know. You are always welcome on Beat the Book.
All right, man, absolutely. But had to pursue another opportunity because my car is dying, and I'd like to throw some money in that direction. So it's about time, I guess.
So, well, with that being said, let's get into some of the news now. And, perhaps there's going to be some things said on this show a little bit later on. You'll be able to turn around, place some bets with the book, get that money, help get the car the love it needs. So,
yeah,
let's get cracking.
Long shot parlay of the day. Save me.
Right.
Yeah.
So, if you didn't happen to know, the NBA trade deadline that is very fast approaching us here. It is coming up at 1 p.m. Mountain Time tomorrow. So by the time Beat the Book is on tomorrow, we're going to know exactly how everything settles here. We've already seen a couple of trades come out today, relatively smaller ones compared to some of the bigger ones that came out over the weekend. And obviously, there is just this nonstop chatter regarding our Phoenix Suns, regarding the Miami Heat. Constant reports. If you happen to be on like NBA Twitter last night between 6 p.m., 8 p.m., there was like a 2-hour window where it was like every 3 minutes, there's like new report, new rumor. Everything is trending in this direction of, okay, Suns don't look like they can pull off this Jimmy Butler trade. Time to pivot to Kevin Durant. We knew that there were conversations being had. We're not totally sure kind of which way the Suns are leaning on this. All we know is that it seems to be that they have exhausted all possible avenues to get rid of Bradley Beal, try and bring in, some different assets for that. And it's just not panning out. No one wants to take on that amount of his contract paired with the no trade clause. It's just a very, very difficult dynamic to work with. So I wanted to spend some time kind of going through a lot of these different reports and rumors and headlines that are coming out, because if you are not someone that is really intimately familiar with how the NBA trade deadline goes, like if you have not just religiously paid attention to it every season for the last 5-10 years, like you need to know that this is normal. Like what's happening right now is normal. It doesn't feel normal because the Suns aren't always the talk of the town. It's not always going to be chatter about us potentially blowing up, our three, all-star tandem. That's just unfortunately the way things are, for this season. But what is normal is there being a healthy amount of misinformation put out there, and then probably a little bit of truth. And so it's really difficult at times to kind of weed through it all and know, what is legitimate and what is something that is just like fabricated for the sake of being the first person to report it. Because believe it or not, that is a dynamic that motivates a lot of people out there to try and get their name out. They just want to be the first one to come out and say it. I can't tell you how many I've already seen today of like Kevin Durant has been traded to the Warriors, NBA Centel.
Which by the way, that's one of those accounts that will say anything, true or not, just to say it. And they're one of the more egregious ones. But yeah, if you go on NBA Twitter, like you can find maybe 80% of the news that's flying around back and forth from these various platforms. They're just making stuff up, man. They're just making stuff up.
It's literal clickbait. That's what it is. So first and foremost, right before we came on, Shams Charania put out a announcement regarding Kevin Durant. There's been tons of chatter about the Warriors looking to do everything that they can in their power to get Kevin Durant. They're trying to maximize this, fading window of Steph Curry's ability, and they're not doing right by him with how the team has been this season with the talent that they've assembled around him. It's just not where Warriors owner Joe Lacob wants it to be. So, they're pursuing Kevin Durant. That makes complete sense. But now this new wrinkle that's come to light, Kevin Durant has zero interest in returning to the Golden State Warriors. And this is one of those things where Shams, almost always is going to get it right. I don't even think I can think of a time where Shams put something out there and it was actually just totally wrong. If that ever did happen, he would be very quick to retract it or, hold himself accountable. So if he's putting this out there, I trust his process. He's done very well throughout this entire, trade season, so to speak. I would take that as truthful, and that does make sense. Now, there were reports yesterday, and this is something I really wanted to make sure we had a space to talk about on the air today, because this is just I saw these headlines and they are asinine. That's probably the best word I could use to describe them. There were reports coming out on NBA Twitter yesterday that the Phoenix Suns covet Draymond Green in a potential trade with the Warriors, which now we know, hey, Durant's not even interested in going there. So good. Glad that threw a whole bucket of cold water on it. But for anyone to even remotely think that that's possible, that just tells me you are not a Suns fan. There's two problems with bringing Draymond Green to the Phoenix Suns. Number one, Yusuf Nurkic is on this team. Yusuf Nurkic and Draymond Green do not like each other.
No.
That's going back to an on-court altercation that spiraled to off-court words being said. And Draymond Green to this day, still trolls Yusuf Nurkic on his podcast.
And Yusuf Nurkic, I believe the last words he ever put on social media about Draymond Green was that brother needs help. So we don't have that's an oil and water situation. We're not mixing those two guys.
They've already had a literal assault between NBA players in the Footprint Center before. You'd have to go talk to Isaiah Stewart and Drew Eubanks.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
I don't think they want a repeat of that.
Especially on the same team. And we already know that Draymond Green, if you're on the same team as him, that's not going to stop him from hitting you. You can ask Jordan Poole all about that.
So that's problem number one. But the bigger problem to me goes back to an instance that Draymond Green had a long time ago. Turner was experimenting with this concept of let's allow an active NBA player to come on to our Tuesday night or our Thursday night broadcast and be a part of the panel. This would have to happen on a day where your team isn't playing. Mm-hmm. But as an active NBA player, we're going to give you the platform to come onto national TV and just speak your mind about the broadcasts. And there's a reason why they don't continue to do this today. It's because Draymond Green, during Inside the NBA, goes out of his way to say, get my man Devin Booker out of Phoenix. This happened a while ago. I'm not going to lie. A long time ago, a lot of people are like, wow, you're still mad over that? Absolutely, I'm still mad over that. That is by far one of the most petty things I've ever seen an active NBA player do. Plus, the NBA didn't even fathom this this like, oh, this could actually go bad for us, and this guy could start to, say some
Yeah,
things that maybe breach the line of
To be fair
tampering.
to Turner and to the NBA, most guys are so media trained, they usually don't say anything. That guy, that's the guy that you don't test because he will actually say whatever pops into his head. I think that like the three guys that if you put this idea together, the three guys you don't even dream about bringing on, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Anthony Edwards. You just don't do that.
There's
Maybe
actually a fourth guy. There's a fourth guy who did go on the air and also made mistakes and has not been back on the air since. He's not in the NBA anymore, but he is playing professionally overseas.
who is that?
Patrick Beverly.
That Pat Bev, yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
Remember him on I think it was First Take. He said Chris Paul is a cone that people dribble around. And here's Chris Paul still in the NBA.
Still in the NBA. Patrick Beverly is in Israel, I believe, playing basketball.
Yep.
I also would add probably LaMelo Ball to that, but not because he'll ruin anything. He just can't. He doesn't have more than 3 words he can say without dropping a swear word afterwards. You just can't put that dude on TV.
Absolutely no filter whatsoever.
Just
Completely second that.
incapable.
But getting back to what we were talking about here with the headlines, like Draymond Green can't come to the Suns. If Matt Ishbia wanted to seek to undo all of this goodwill that he's built up with the city, with the fan base, then yeah, the first thing you would do is to trade out Kevin Durant, and a part of that return would be bringing Draymond Green to Phoenix. That is absolutely not something that is seriously being considered, and we know that now because Kevin Durant has zero interest in returning to the Warriors. So we don't have to worry about that one. That was one I really wanted to shut down up front. Now, there's another one that, and this is still playing out prominently right now, and this is something you and I both looked at it and we're just like, this makes absolutely no sense. Like this can't be plausible. And that's that, okay, Suns can't get Bradley Beal, out and get Jimmy Butler in. So let's still go after Jimmy Butler, but let's trade Kevin Durant to get him. Like, where does that make any hint of basketball sense? The whole point of wanting Jimmy Butler was to see how he would complement Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and the rest of the team. It wasn't to swap out Kevin Durant for Jimmy Butler. I mean,
and Brian Windhorst is like big on this one. He thinks that it's like not 50-50, but that either Kevin Durant is still a Sun or he's in a Heat uniform by tomorrow night. And I just think that that's insane.
I just do not see the basketball sense in it, because if you're going to trade Kevin Durant, you are very, very likely not going to be more competitive than you were before you made that trade. So if you're going to do something to lessen the talent on the team and make you not as, competitive,
Better
then
get a boatload of picks back.
Exactly. I mean, you need to be compensated in a way that isn't just getting like a poor man's Kevin Durant back. I mean, we'll get a little bit of financial savings on the salary cap, but I mean, if you're trading out Kevin Durant, you're seeking out a lot of savings on the salary cap. And then in addition to that, you want the draft capital. So I'm not putting any stock in these headlines of, oh yeah, the Suns are going to swap Durant for Butler. That doesn't put the Suns in a better place. At that point, I'd rather see the Suns do nothing and we'll just have to kind of suffer through the rest of the season, see what happens in the playoffs, and then, try and sort things out from there. Now, the one thing that I do want to stress is that, the Suns have talked to the Houston Rockets. And I've been up front before, like, look, if we're going to trade Kevin Durant, the best place we can send him to is the Houston Rockets. And it's mutual. That'll put him in the best winning situation right away. Likewise, Houston has the draft capital and the talent to turn around and put Phoenix back in a place where, we could probably be really, really competitive again within maybe 2 years, maybe less than that. But in my mind, you cannot let Kevin Durant go to Houston if they are not willing to send you back Amen Thompson. He absolutely has to be the centerpiece of a package that Houston would send back to Phoenix, because now we're looking at hope for the future, in addition to still trying to put together talent in the short term to see if we can get another group behind Devin Booker to make another push in the West. That, to me, if we're going to go down this path of Kevin Durant, that's the best possible path. You absolutely don't want to send Kevin Durant to the Heat for Jimmy Butler, and then we're still in this same boat of salary cap hell with no draft picks, no young future potential to look forward to. There's just no benefits in it all around.
Yeah, the whole point, like you said, of Butler is to complement Durant and Booker, and also kind of to weasel your way out of this Beal contract that is not good. That's just the long and short of it. Is it's not a good contract, and it's escalating. You know, we've described it on the show as a poison pill. You're trying to get out of that too. If you move Durant, you still have the Beal contract problem that you have not fixed, and I think you have gotten worse.
Now, don't forget, there is a game of chicken going on in Miami, and that game is being played between Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley. And it's just like a showdown right now. It's coming into the final, less than 24 hours. They're both just staring each other dead in the eye, daring each other to make the first move. And Keon, we were talking about this before the show. I think Jimmy Butler, like he's kind of come full circle, because this was getting to a point where he started to get criticized for how he was acting. And now this is just detrimental to what you're trying to accomplish. But from where we stand right now today on Wednesday, I feel like Jimmy Butler's in a win-win situation, because if the Heat do not choose to trade him, that's a win for him. He gets to opt into another year of a higher salary. And meanwhile, the Heat are kind of looking at a scenario where if you're sticking around, we're probably not going to play you. We're going to come up with some agreement to like pay you to stay away from the team. Now, obviously, Jimmy Butler wants to get back to the court. And that's where, Miami doesn't want to pay a guy not to play, especially with how much Jimmy Butler is set to make next year. So there is absolutely potential for Miami in the 11th hour to kind of switch gears, sort of soften their stance on things. And maybe they go, yeah, we're done with this headache. We don't even want to deal with, what happens immediately after the trade deadline, because now Jimmy Butler's changing his tune. He's saying all the right things. He's saying, look, if this doesn't work out, I want to come back to the team. I'm in shape. I just want to, kind of build some bridges back. I won't be an issue to the team. I won't be a problem. That's what he's saying right now. Does he actually mean that? Who knows? I see Jimmy as someone that, along with his agent, they have kind of masterfully manipulated this situation. And if Miami really in that final hour is like looking themselves in the mirror and they're like, oh God, do we keep him? Do we chance this? Do we let him go? I think they have fully soured on him internally. And there's just not going to be a world where, okay, we've like suspended you 3 times now, but we're going to bring you back again for the 4th time. We're going to keep our fingers crossed on this national TV game and hope that you don't make a scene, or something. Like they don't need this stress. At some point they'll look at maybe just a direct swap. Bradley Beal, 3 first-rounders. Like at some point, I mean, Mickey Harrison and Pat Riley are going to look at each other and just be like, it's not the one that we would have hoped for, but it's better. It's better than the alternative.
Yeah, and like they had a good run with Jimmy. They went to a couple of finals because it was the COVID finals. He got them there, and then a couple of years ago he got them back to a finals again where they lost to the Denver Nuggets. So they got as much out of Jimmy as most teams have gotten out of Jimmy. I just think that maybe you just let this one go.
Well, and then the other piece to this too is that, hey, if the Suns can't trade Bradley Beal and we have to play out the rest of the season with him, I'm not hopeful about our chances. I don't think we're going to go very far in the postseason. But after the season, coming into next season, Bradley Beal, his contract situation changes a bit. He's no longer someone that's going to be on your books for multiple years. He's an expiring contract. So you'll still have the dynamic of trying to get him to agree to whatever trade you need to make. But when he becomes an expiring contract, you're going to see a number of other teams that maybe weren't interested in him right now all of a sudden pick up the phone. There will be some better angles to try and get a deal done to get Bradley Beal off the team. So there's still a pathway for this, I guess, in the long term to work out. I mean, it's never fun to just kind of give up on the season when you're not even at the All-Star break. A lot of things could happen here. Very, very just unpredictable time. And keep your eyes peeled on NBA Twitter. That's where you're going to see all this stuff hit first.
Yeah, last 24 hours has been pretty ridiculous in the NBA. Next 24 hours, I think, could probably somehow top that. Baker's Cocky Hens on the text line says, so many questions. Who's going to read our texts now? Well, Dylan's going to read the texts. We've got a computer thing. You log in, you see the text. Dylan's going to read them. And then also he says, is Keon leaving the blender as well? And it's got the crying face emoji. Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm retired. So we're gonna get to some NBA talk, some more NBA talk. We'll talk a little bit more about the trade deadline, what moves actually were made, because the Butler Beal trade has not been made. There's speculation still about that one, but what trades were made, we'll talk about that. And we'll also get a check in on the Super Bowl odds, as well as a look at what's going on tonight around the world of sports that you can bet on. We'll go ahead and get you that right here on Beat the Book on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
Make extra money daily from your sports betting? Dylan Cohen from Beat the Book here. You know, I'm always about finding ways to take sports betting to the next level, and that's exactly why I'm pumped to tell you about Edge Boost, the financial platform that pays you cash back to wager. Edge Boost is an online bank account that pays you for every deposit. With the Edge Boost Visa debit card, you're getting up to 0.5% cash back on all of your sportsbook, daily fantasy site, and casino transactions. That's free money back in your pocket just for doing what you're already doing. It's a no-brainer. Plus, your Edge Boost debit card starts with a $250,000 daily limit, and it will never be declined for gambling activity. They've got built-in tools to help you stay responsible, and there's absolutely no hidden fees or minimum required balances. So stop leaving money on the table. Visit edgeboost.bet to learn more and sign up today. That's edgeboost.bet. Once again, edgeboost.bet.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
Slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pegol is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Paid for by Estella's Pharma.
Your home for sports.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
And we're back. NBA talk. That's what's on the docket today. And the Bucks, the Wizards, probably had one of the bigger trade moves yesterday, Dylan. You want to break that one down a little bit?
Yeah, so the Bucks have traded Chris Middleton to the Washington Wizards, and they got Kyle Kuzma back. And the Bucks also sent rookie guard AJ Johnson, who was their first round draft pick from last year, and a pick swap to Washington as well. And then looks like the Bucks sent Patrick Baldwin Jr. and second round draft compensation. Or I'm sorry, the Wizards sent Patrick Baldwin Jr. in the second round pick back to Milwaukee. But obviously the bigger figures in this trade is Middleton now being in Washington, Kyle Kuzma moving over to Milwaukee. And this has been kind of an odd year for the Bucks, just in that, Chris Middleton has had probably the smallest role on this team that he's had in maybe the last 10 years or so. A lot of that's really just been due to injury. He had been working himself, back into game shape. He was playing a lot more consistently. I mean, his last game for the Bucks, which looks like he was back on Sunday at home against Memphis, he had 20 points in 26 minutes. Chris Middleton is still a very serviceable player in this league, but I do think he's really kind of fallen off from, the guy that helped the Bucks win an NBA championship, alongside Jrue Holiday and Giannis. He can't really be that third guy in a big three anymore. It's almost as if he's kind of descended a little bit to a very good role player, coming off the bench. Now, for them to get Kyle Kuzma back in return for Chris Middleton, he brings a different kind of skill set. Kyle Kuzma, going back to at least his days on the Lakers, ended up being a very complimentary piece to a guy like Anthony Davis, who outside of Giannis, that's another one of those very elite, kind of more of a power forward than a center type of an archetype player. So Kyle Kuzma knows how to share a front court with a player of that caliber. And I think it's almost a little difficult to assess Kyle Kuzma at this point, because Kyle Kuzma playing on a bottom feeder like the Wizards versus Kyle Kuzma playing on a championship contender, I think those are two completely different guys. And Milwaukee may have been the team that comes out on top in this one. We won't really know until we get to see, how each of these teams look. But there is a chance that the Bucks really hit a home run on this one. Kuzma just kind of transforms himself back into the Lakers Kuzma. And we see a guy that is just, renewed motivation to play basketball. We've seen these things before. It could totally happen. Now, for Chris Middleton being on the Wizards, that doesn't necessarily feel like his final resting place. He may be there for the rest of the season. I could see, in the off season or somewhere down the line before his contract is up, he could get sent out for more draft capital. Maybe he ends up going to a contender down the line. I don't think he finishes out his career, so to speak, with the Wizards at this point. How do you see Middleton impacting your Wizards in the short term, Keon?
Yeah, I think in the short term, he doesn't make them a better basketball team, not because he's not a really good player, but because they are so bad that you would need so much more talent than just Chris Middleton to make them better. But I do think that what he does is he provides a little bit of mentorship for a team that's just really, really young. We've seen this happen in the NBA before, where there are talented teams that don't really go anywhere because there's just not an adult in the room. That's why if you're the Spurs, it makes sense to go and bring in a Chris Paul, for instance. Like, that helps you a lot. I think Chris Middleton can do that on that team, kind of just with a bunch of rookies and a bunch of guys that are just not quite sure how to handle themselves in the NBA. To have a pro who knows how to work, I think that helps. And I also think that, like, Bilal Coulibaly, who's the guy that the Wizards are really hell-bent on developing, has a game that's kind of similar to Middleton. So, like, having Middleton, if he's willing to, and I don't know if he will be, but he is, again, one of those guys that is a pro in this league. If he'd be willing to mentor Bilal, I think that that'd be really, really cool, because I think that could be something that takes his game to the next level. So I like the trade for the Wizards. I also like the AJ Johnson part of it. Maybe kick the tires on that, see what's there. Like, I think it works for the Wizards, in the short term, but I think the long-term effect of just having an adult, a grown-up in that locker room is going to be incredibly valuable.
Well, and there's also something to account for too, in that, Chris Middleton is someone that got drafted in the second round. He's been in the league for 13 years. He had to work his way up from almost as low as it gets. And he's essentially ascended the mountaintop. He's made the All-Star game 3 times. He's got a ring. He's a champion. And he wasn't just someone that rode the bench that year.
He was the second best player on a team with Giannis on it. So that ought to tell you how valuable a player he can be and what he's managed to do.
Yeah, I definitely think he's going to at least command immediate respect in that locker room. And perhaps there's some mentorship, that goes down there, and he helps some of the other guys on that Wizards team grow. So curious to see how that plays out. Now, our Phoenix Suns, they are back in action tonight, and they are taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they are on the road. So this is wide and far the hardest place to be on the road in the NBA and to go and get a win. The Thunder have a 21-3 home record so far this season. They are also looking at getting their other all-star back tonight, Jalen Williams. He had been out the last week or so he's going to return. That's going to take a lot of the load off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But you can honestly hardly tell that he was having to take on any more responsibility over the last week. He's just continuing his MVP campaign, really scoring at a unbelievable level. So it's not a very great time for Phoenix to be making this stop in Oklahoma City. You take a look at the betting line right now in this game, and OKC is a 13-point favorite. I think a big part of that is also because Kevin Durant was ruled out for this game. And by the way, I have had a couple of people text me about this. Kevin Durant being out for this game it implies nothing regarding the trades being made. Like, he's out of this game because he turned his ankle against the Blazers. He was seen walking gingerly on it. It is a legitimate ailment that he's dealing with. It's not one of those things where the Suns are trying to be sneaky and they throw him on the injury report and hold him out because there's potentially a trade going down. Again, that could be coincidental if they do happen to deal him to the Rockets, but it really just seems like the sentiment now is that more than likely we're going to hold on to Durant. But getting back to this actual game, I would not be looking to bet on the Phoenix Suns right now. And more than anything, it's just because of this time, this trade deadline, all the uncertainty that it creates. It doesn't feel very good to be a player on the Phoenix Suns right now if your name is not Devin Booker or Bradley Beal. And even Kevin Durant, for as much as it seems like he's not going to be on the move anymore, he doesn't have a no trade clause. I mean, this is still a business. Luka didn't think he was going to get traded. So anything can happen there. I just think the Suns, all those players are playing with a bit of an extra weight on their shoulders because of the circumstance. But then you actually look at the X's and O's of this. And I mean, the Thunder are the best defense in the NBA right now. And we did happen to play the Thunder back in November. That game didn't go so well for us. Kevin Durant was out for that one too. And the Thunder won by 16 points. The final score of that one was 99-83. This was back on November 15th. And if I recall, this was actually an NBA Cup game. So it was actually something that should have incentivized the guys to try even harder. It wasn't just a normal regular season game. And we still fell very short. This Thunder team is no joke. They have won 3 out of their last 4 games. They are coming off of a 39-point victory against the Bucks. Granted, the Bucks sat out their starters for that game, but they also beat the Kings the game before that by 34 points. So I did not include it in the Beat the Book picks because I don't like to put this stuff in writing. But if you were going to ask me the way I would be betting on this game, I'd be leaning towards that Oklahoma City spread.
Yeah, just as a note, Dylan does not like to put into text bad things about the Suns. You might bet them, but it's hard to have to take your fingers and actually type that about your team.
I will say it over the airwaves where it's either heard or it's not, and it goes away. I don't like putting it in writing where it's going to live forever. That's kind of the way that I look at that. So we'll have to keep an eye on how that game goes. That one's on ESPN later on tonight. We've also got the Super Bowl coming up this coming Sunday. We talked a little bit about the big game earlier this week. We looked at the lines, and then, the big thing there that I pointed out was that, like, I'm someone that thinks the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. I ultimately want to bet on them to win, but I think the price on them to win money line is going to improve. And it has improved slightly since the last time that we looked at this on Monday. The line is actually getting a lot closer to becoming a pick'em. Where things stand right now, just looking at the odds on FanDuel, you've got the Chiefs as 1.5-point favorites. They're paying -120 on the money line. But Philadelphia's payout on the money line is getting reduced. It's now down to +102. So we're very close to that kind of pick'em territory. I truthfully do see this at some point before Sunday. This should get to a pick'em. I'm still hopeful that there's an opportunity where maybe for a short window it flips. And if you're someone that wants to bet on Kansas City, like, that's the opportunity you're waiting for. And again, I mean, worst case scenario, wherever this thing swings, it's not going to be a crazy sharp movement, where all of a sudden you can't get Chiefs money line for like -120. I mean, we're working with very kind of fine parameters on this, but I definitely still think it's worth it to hold off a bit, wait and see where this line moves. So far throughout the week, it's been moving slowly, but it is moving in the direction that we want it to. If you're someone that thinks the Eagles are going to win, I hope you already put your bets in, because I don't know if the price is going to get back to where it was when things opened. Now, actually, you know what, Keon? Is there anything regarding the Super Bowl that you'd like to say? Any thoughts, last analysis, anything like that?
And any final analysis on the Super Bowl? I would say just that I do think that this game's going to be probably a lower scoring game than people think. These are two of the best defenses in football. The Chiefs have been one of the best defenses in the AFC all year long. The Eagles have been one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFC all year long. So I feel really good about the under in this game.
Well, and the line, The line's 48.5. So, I mean, you've got a lot of room there if you're working with an under. Like, you could still have a score that's 20 something.
It's going to be a competitive game. I do think they're going to score, but I don't know that they're going to score a lot or in bunches. Now, granted, with these two teams, with the way Saquon's running, with the way that Mahomes has just absolutely dominated games this postseason, I could be 100% wrong about that, but I just feel really good about looking at the under on this just because of how both of these teams play defense. And we have seen Super Bowls where, it's 20-17 and it's a great Super Bowl and the game's intense, but you're below that number. And at 49, like you said, there's some leeway there.
There's definitely some leeway there. Let's get into some games that are going on tonight. If you check out the Beat the Book website, you're going to see towards the top 2 picks of the day. And the first one is for the Memphis Grizzlies to cover the spread in their game against the Toronto Raptors. And I actually have an alternate spread on the Grizzlies to win by an even larger margin on the long shot parlay. So I'm going to hold off on explaining what the rationale is for that, because I'm going to get into it in segment 3. But the other pick that I just wanted to make sure we had some time to shout out here, because this is by far the best NBA prop bet to play for today. You want to be counting on Lauri Markkanen on the Utah Jazz to go under his line for points. And the last time that I looked at that on FanDuel, it was at 19.5. So we're counting on Lauri Markkanen to score 19 or less points tonight. And the Jazz are taking on the Golden State Warriors at home. Golden State is a top 8 team in the NBA defensively. Meanwhile, you take a look at Lauri Markkanen and his scoring output for this season, and this is where things get really attractive about this pick. Lauri Markkanen has played in 37 games so far this season. He has scored 19 or less points 22 times. That's almost a 60% clip. He's also currently on a 6-game streak of scoring 19 or less points. And that Warriors defense is not, one of those bottom of the barrel defenses. They still put effort in there, even though they may not necessarily have the most elite defensive personnel out there. A lot of it is just Steve Kerr and his schemes and, how he has that team play. So I cannot stress it enough. If you have not already and you're looking to place a bet in the NBA tonight, go to Lauri Markkanen on the Utah Jazz. You can take the under on his line for points at 19.5. I think that is wide and far the best player prop bet to make today.
So there you have it for that. We'll take one quick look at the text line before we move on to the long shot parlay of the day. Jazz on the text line says, let's pick all favorites in the NBA today. Which would you?
I'm sorry, Jazz.
Oh boy. the Lauri Markkanen line has to hurt you specifically. And that's not what it was intended to do, but we know you're a big Jazz fan. So there's that. Then there's Big Jake on the text line saying, I know this is old, but it was just so sweet. I had to share it. The 11-leg parlay from the NFC title game. Let's see what we got going on here. He's got Dallas Goedert over 25 yards. De'Ami Brown over 25 yards. Zach Ertz over 25 yards. McLaurin over 50 yards and McLaurin over 3 receptions. You have to take 2 separate screenshots to make this all fit. So we're going to go down. Brian Robinson, 25 yards rushing on an alternate spread. A.J. Brown, 10 yards reception or 10 plus yard receptions. Devontae Smith, to record 10 or more yards in the game. Saquon Barkley with 80 plus yards on an alternate rushing line. Terry McLaurin with the 15-yard the 15-yard receptions in the game, and then Jaden Daniels under 54.5 rushing yards. An $18 bet turned into $385 for Big Jake. So hey, long time no see, Big Jake. It's been a little bit, but congratulations. I know it is a little bit late, but we always appreciate the bets being shared there. So we're going to get to the long shot parlay of the day. And I got Big Jake texting some more about KD and, not wanting to see him go. So we'll get to that on the other side as well, right here on Beat the Book on 1580 The Fanatic.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Live and local.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down. Slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Survey gets GA going slower.
Izervay or Avastin-capted Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Survey gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
They're gonna go nuts when he hits this thing.
Who went in?
The People's Open is back. See the PGA Tour's best tee it up at the 2025 WM Phoenix Open February 3rd through the 9th at TPC Scottsdale. Get tournament and ticket info at WMPhoenixOpen.com. WMPhoenixOpen.com.
Everybody's got a podcast these days. Comedy, politics, true crime, you name it. But how many actually teach you anything useful? Harman Solar has an entertaining podcast that is vital if you've been thinking about looking into solar, but you don't know where to start. Ralph and Ben explore the intricacies of utilities, equipment, processes, and more. Their primary objective is to educate and empower you to make informed decisions on your solar journey. So increase your knowledge, not your bills. Go check it out right now. It's the Harman Solar Podcast at harmansolar.com.
The Renaissance Festival is back. Weekends now through March 30th. Be ready to have a great time. Amazing adventure awaits the entire family. New shows, shopping, jousting nights, non-stop feasting. Leave your cares behind. Happiness reigns at the Renaissance Festival. It's fun and affordable. You'll love the Renaissance. Visit now through March 30th. Discount tickets available at Bashers' and Food City or online at arizona.redfestinfo.com. Presented by Delta Airlines, Bashers', Food City, Pepsi, Budweiser, and Guinness. Huzzah!
I'm Angela Gonzalez reporting from Phoenix. We're talking with the community about Phoenix Police Department. Ma'am, what do you think?
Oh, I love them. They're our local heroes. We've had some problems around here with break-ins and people using drugs on the streets. The police work with our community to have a presence in our neighborhood and keep our streets safe.
Thank you, Phoenix Police.
Gracias a la Policía de Phoenix.
Thank you, Phoenix Police.
Rise to serve. Find more today at joinphxpd.com. Protect and serve with the elite.
Sponsored by the City of Phoenix.
1580 and 99.3 The Fanatic.
Arizona's new home for sports.
So we're back, and on the text line is Big Jake once again. He's saying, please, don't trade KD. Trade Book if you must. The dude is just not a leader and doesn't make anyone better. I think he's the cause of the team's locker room, quote unquote, chaos Nurk speaks of. Beal and Nurk are barely on speaking terms. And then he also says, thanks. Look, I don't think that you trade Booker either. That's crazy. He's 27. You just don't have a guy in his prime playing the way that Devin Booker is playing. And also, am I gonna believe Nurkic about what the nature of this team and this locker room is? He's a guy who is currently beefing with his coach. The coach doesn't like him. He doesn't seem to like the coach. He hasn't played in. When was the last time Yusuf Nurkic started? Can you even remember?
I don't think he started this calendar year. It's probably sometime in 2024.
So the obvious disgruntled player on the team is not the guy I'm going to believe about the state of the locker room. I'm not saying that he's wrong. I'm saying he's got a very strong bias. Big Jake also says, I watch every game closely. Book isn't cool with most of the team. If you have to blow it up, trade Book, not KD. He's 27. I think if you have to trade a guy, you blow up the team and you try to build again around Booker and not the guy who's like coming on down the end of his prime in Durant. You have less years with Durant than you do with Booker. And also, you're not going to armchair read body language like you're Dr. Phil watching the game from your house. You have to hear people talk. Like I used to cover SEC football, which is a very different thing entirely. But what I'm telling you is when you go in those locker rooms and hear those guys talk, it's not the same as what you watch on TV without any sound, without any context. You have no way of knowing who Devin Booker is and isn't cool with. You just don't.
I have actually one time in my life, and this was like way back in high school, during a preseason game, I had an opportunity to sit courtside. And that was my number one takeaway was, oh my God, like what I've watched on TV versus what I am experiencing sitting right here, two completely different things. Because when you sit courtside, you hear all of the little conversations, everything that is not picked up on any kind of a TV broadcast, and it will shock you. And I mean, God, I still remember the Suns had Hedo Turkoglu. That's how long ago this
Wow.
was.
Okay. Yeah.
And this was a game where they were playing the Warriors. I still remember this to this day. Monte Ellis like inbounded a ball like standing inches from me. And like, I mean, I can see all the detail on his tattoos down his leg. And it's just like, oh my God, like this is, I mean, as a basketball fan, I was like in heaven.
Of course.
I would kill to experience something like that again. But just speaking to what you're saying there too, you cannot be, a mind reader and watch these games on TV and just be able to infer things like that. I promise you, when you sit courtside and you hear the conversations, like guys that you think don't like each other, they like each other. They're joking around. Like you'll get that extra context when you can hear the tone, the words. There's a lot of other things that you're missing out on.
If you're just reading body language, you just don't have the whole story. It's not an insult to you, Big Jake. It's just a fact that when we watch the games at home, we don't have everything. King of Kittens says, you're never too late to begin your next journey. Well, we'll see about that. We shall see about that. But right now, our next journey is the long shot parlay of the day. 4 legs, 1 parlay, and hopefully a lot of money. Dylan, where do we start?
So here's how this thing breaks down. As Keon said, this is 4 legs. And when I put it together on FanDuel earlier today, it was paying 107-1 odds. Unfortunately, the ship has kind of sailed a little bit with this. I'm going to explain why, because one of these legs, there was some injury news that came out that made the line that I originally put on there very likely. So now the payout on it isn't what it was had you made this bet this morning when the picks got posted. So the way it breaks down right now, Victor Wembanyama to score 30 or more points tonight, Jaden McDaniels to score 20 or more points tonight, the Memphis Grizzlies to cover a minus 16.5 point spread, and then finally the Milwaukee Bucks to cover a minus 14.5 point spread. I'm going to go through each one right now. Victor Wembanyama for 30 or more points. The Spurs are taking on the Atlanta Hawks tonight with their new point guard, De'Aaron Fox, expected to play. This is going to be the first time that we're going to get a chance to see the new pairing of De'Aaron Fox and Victor Wembanyama in action. Wemby has scored 30 or more points twice over his last 5 games, and the last time that he faced the Atlanta Hawks back in December, he scored 42 points in an overtime win. There's a chance that De'Aaron Fox does end up using this debut to showcase his scoring ability, which could work against Wemby's offensive production. But the safer bet is to count on Fox showing the world how he can be a complementary piece besides Victor Wembanyama as the Spurs' new playmaker. So look for Wemby to get a lot of looks on offense against the 3rd worst defense in the NBA tonight. Jaden Daniels for 20 or more points. The Minnesota Timberwolves are taking on the Chicago Bulls, who happen to be on the road playing the second night of a back-to-back. The Timberwolves will continue to be without Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle, which has actually been creating opportunities for Jaden McDaniels to get more involved on the offense. McDaniels has scored 22 or more points in his last 2 straight games. In the previous game he played against the Bulls back in November, Jaden McDaniels scored 19 points off of only 7 shots, and Randle and DiVincenzo both played in that matchup. So now there's even more shots to go around today. And then you've got McDaniels playing well very recently. He's going to be in line to get a lot of shots up in this matchup against the 2nd worst defense in the NBA. Count on Jaden McDaniels to score tonight. Memphis Grizzlies to cover the minus 16.5 point alternate spread. The Grizzlies are taking on the Toronto Raptors tonight, and what will be the 2nd and final game that these teams play against each other this season. In their first matchup back in December, the Grizzlies beat the Raptors by 29 points. Grizzlies have won 9 out of their last 10 games. They're coming off a 19-point win against the Spurs back on Monday. The big thing that drove this line was that the Raptors ruled out Emmanuel Quickley, Jakob Poeltl, and RJ Barrett. They're going to be very shorthanded. Look for the Grizzlies to dominate. Finally, Bucks on a minus 14.5 point spread. The Bucks are actually out for revenge. You wouldn't know this unless you saw the game, but the Bucks played in Charlotte back in November. They unfortunately lost the game, and that was due to some controversial officiating calls. Giannis was extremely furious. This is a get-back game for the Bucks coming back to Charlotte. They're going to remember how they got screwed over there last time. They're going to be looking to play really hard. The Hornets are shorthanded. Count on Milwaukee to win big. That's all I got, Keon.
And that'll do it for us right here on Beat the Book. Sorry, Big Jake, you got a long text and we don't have any more time. Daily Blender coming up next.